Tuesday night is once again upon us. 9/9. What a special evening to have a conversation for a new Earth. Welcome back. How are you feeling tonight, Alyssa?
I'm feeling great. Yeah, and when we combine the 2025, we got another 9, so we've got 999. Doesn't happen very often, but wow, what a big day. Excited for this conversation.
Really is, and whatever it was last weekend, the word 9 just kept coming through to us, and we feel like whatever it is, it's beautiful, and we're glad to be a part of it. So those of you who've been with us before, it's so great to have you again. Any of you who may be joining for the first time, great to be with you as well. Brian, love it. Thank you so much for sharing your love with us. And Angie, great to see you as well. Soul Fam, love it. Thank you so much for sharing your love with us too. Oh, you got it. So I'm not sure if you see Alyssa has perhaps a little bit of a connection, but it's looking pretty good. I'm seeing it a little blurry still, but hopefully it'll keep working itself out.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, can hear you loud and clear. So we'll trust that it'll all work out for the best. Okay. So Emanations and Archetypes. We started this journey through the Gnostic syzygies last week. We did a little intro 2 weeks ago. And then last week we did syzygy number 1. What was that syzygy again, Alyssa?
So we had mind and truth. That was last week's. Do you want to tell us a little bit briefly what anybody that was here last week, what we kind of went over?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great place to start. So Alyssa in deep meditation sort of stumbled upon this dualistic, companionship-oriented, polar forces in the universe in Gnostic thought a couple thousand years ago, which kind of came down the line from different Christ-based teachings. And she found them in 6 pairs, and those pairs seem to correlate really well with the archetypes of the zodiac. And as we kind of mapped it all out on our whiteboard behind me, which I won't show you, but I'll share a little chart, she found that these dualities are already inherent in the zodiac that we all know, but we don't often think of it as having an archetype that is a complement. So for example, tonight we're doing Taurus. Last week we did Aries, but Aries has a complement, so does Taurus, and they're just sort of like the opposites on the wheel. So as we did last week, which was mind, which is the Greek word is nous, and truth, which the Greek word is aletheia, we had Aries, and then remind me, what was the complementary? What's on the other side of Aries?
Good question. Oh man, it's right after Virgo. Pull it up.
So yeah, we'll just add it to the stage. So the other side of Aries was Libra.
Yes.
Okay, so you'll see, and we'll share this as we go along. But so basically 6 archetypes in and then 6 archetypes out. And as we go through the different layers these syzygies bring, I think it'll all hopefully come together in a meaningful way. But last week, we'll pull this off just for a second. This word metanoia really stuck with me, and metanoia is the New Testament word that kind of got attached to nous, this mind, which was like change your mind. It was this thing Jesus said over and over and over again, change your mind, change your mind. And some people have translated it to like turn to me, like turn unto me, come to me with your questions. Other people translate it to like repent, you're going to hell, you're not worthy, you've got to change yourself. So it was interpreted really different ways. But to me, metanoia is like this really beautiful word that really is the same as conversation. So let me just put this up a little bit. When we say conversation for a new Earth, literally what we're trying to say is, change your mind and see the God within you. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but these are the same sort of things that Jesus taught. And so he may have said in the Aramaic version, metanoia neokenos, which would be change your mind and step into the new Earth. And other things that he said would be like, the kingdom of heaven is at hand, the
kingdom of heaven is within you.
Right. So same kind of, and that's been what stuck with me from last week. It's really about taking this incredible power of mind and tethering it to the new Earth within you. So it's been a very eventful week. It's been very busy, but taking little breaks to remember that has been really impactful for me. Anything looking back on last week that you'd want to share in summary, Alyssa?
Oh, I just loved how we kind of encapsulated it with authenticity. Like if we recognize that the first step true to wholeness is authenticity, which comes with honest conversation with yourself, with your heart, truly speaking your fears and listening to the heart, and then truly asking the questions that your mind really thinks that might have already come up with its own answers. But if we disassemble what you know and you go back to the original questions that you were asking, like when you came into this reality, but you ask your heart, you don't ask your parents, you don't ask anybody else, reestablish through authenticity what you would have asked your own heart. Who am I? What does this mean? What that is how we use our authenticity to tune in to love and rebuild ourselves from the inside out. So that was great.
Yeah, I do love that too, and I'm glad you brought that up. That came through near the end, the idea of authenticity and Aries being like this super powerful spark, get things started, like really the first sign on the calendar, the beginning of the whole thing, being so authentic in its individuality. And I thought that was a beautiful way to carry that momentum forward, is like Aries authenticity. And I think that resonates really deeply with you, because that is such a powerful way to describe your energy, Alyssa, is authentic. Because if you are anything, you are authentic.
I try. I definitely am not perfect, but thanks for seeing me that way.
Yeah, no, and that's authentic. That perfection, I don't know that fits the bill at all. So that's completely okay. But yeah, it was a very meaningful conversation. And if you didn't get a chance to listen, it's on the YouTube page, and feel free to drop us a comment if you have any questions after the fact. So tonight we move into Archetype and Emanation number 2, which we can put this back up on the screen for a moment as we do. Again, this little chart is in development. We'll be sure to share it once it's all created and finished and completed, but it has the basics of what we're discussing. So archetype number 2, as we all know, is Taurus, which comes in the month of May, which is the sign that I am associated with based on my birthday. And the archetypes, the emanations that are associated with it are word and life. And we'll share the Greek words for that. They're very simple. Word is logos, which, logic. Many of us have heard different variations of that word in English. And zoa for life, which is kind of like zoo, or different categorical classification, scientific type words. So word and life coming right on the heels of mind and truth feels like sort of a natural progression of things. But in the context of what we're discussing tonight, how would you define word, Alyssa?
Yeah, as we were kind of dissecting this, word ends up looking, from my perspective, as basically our capacity to tell our own stories. It's where we put meaning to the information that we're pulling in. So if we are, let's say, authentic and vulnerable in our newness of life, and we're seeking our heart's answer versus external answers to our most vulnerable questions, or coming up with it in our own mind, which a lot of times is going to be based on fear, we will then be in a place where the meaning we're associating with it and the story we're telling ourselves that then will be given life, which is the other aspect. The feminine will allow those things to become something you can see on the outside, so you can interact with it. And so if we say word being like, it's like the statements like, I am this, or telling the story of why and when and how, it's our capacity to tell story about ourselves, about others, and then that will come to life.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful segue into the syzygy partner for a word, which is life. And Angie's got a nice archetypal connection here. Way to know your birth chart, Angie. Super impressive. I'm still learning mine. But Chiron, I have learned my Chiron sign is super important for me, but Chiron is in Taurus for you. So I think most of us have a connection to one of them somewhere. It's just a matter of how deeply we want to drill into the universe. But that's super cool, and thanks for sharing. So I love how you said that word is really how we give meaning to our experience, and it starts with the story we tell ourselves about our experience, and that brings it to life. So that begs the question, how do we define life in this context?
Yeah, and I don't even necessarily, I guess eventually it ends up coming back with experience, but initially at this stage, we're really just talking about our mind and like the questions that we could form and the answers that we can formulate ourselves is then going to create a story in mind that hasn't quite manifested itself externally to the waking world of sight, of animation. So what was your question? I just wanted to say that part.
Yeah, so we understand a little bit, the counterpart to mind is really sort of heart, which is truth. The counterpart to word, which is more moving into thought, is what?
Life, which I would say is like the animation of the thoughts, like turning it into physical form. You're going to think and tell yourself a story, and I'm going to bring it to life. That's what the feminine is going to do. It's going to birth that story externally for you to see it in action. That's
Right.
life. It's the animating force to make it into a tangible reality that you can then watch. And does that answer your question?
Yeah, that takes me right into like the dream. Like, is that basically what dreaming is? Like, a lot of people even still will say that life is a dream, and we really don't have any proof that it isn't. So all we really have is our thoughts and our ability to think and interpret the world around us in a way that we really want to. But is that similar to what you're saying, where it's kind of our ability to dream? Is that the foundation that we're building with our word and life? Is that animation sort of like a dream?
Yes, I can see what you're saying. You're saying that the life itself is like you are telling yourself a story, and then your dream is the part that it brings it to life. Whether we're talking about this is a dream or in your own dreams, the reality, the life is basically the light that can then create something you see, but then also you can physically interact with it. So you can have a sensation, it's the life, it's brought to life. So yeah, it's brought to life through dream, but your dream is also being created by the thoughts you're thinking. And then the feminine is the one that says, okay, this is what that is. That's the life. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I think it does. And then for how do the two of them interact? Like, it's sort of, we got to the point last week that we kind of understand how to come back to ourselves, to ask ourselves the question, how do we do that with our experience? What is it that we do with our thoughts to bring them back to life, or to bring them to life?
Well, it's going to happen no matter what. That's the thing.
It's like instantaneous, like automatic.
I mean, it's not instantaneous, but it will come. And depending on, like, we're thinking lots of thoughts, and it's formulating what it is eventually going to form in the existence. Like, there's an incubation like time frame. So necessarily, I mean, in dreams it may be quicker, but in this reality, what you think and all the meaning and everything you're putting into it is eventually going to come back. But no, it's not instantaneous, at least not in my experience.
Yeah,
it's becoming a lot quicker.
yeah, it's a process. It's kind of like a dance, and you learn the dance as you go along. And what does awareness have to do with it? And we've got a great comment from Angie that we'll pull up in just a second as well. But is it really becoming aware of your thoughts? Is that an important element of this whole thing? I feel like I didn't become aware of the story I was telling myself until like my 30s. Like, I really just kind of made people happy and bumbled through life and went from this to that, whatever other people were sort of pushing me to. And I didn't really ask myself what I wanted to create with my life until I was divorced and had been through a lot of pain from my experience. But is that awareness an important aspect of this pairing?
Yeah, I mean, that's taking authority over, it's finally waking up to realizing you're creating your reality. So if your thoughts are saying, I am subjected, I don't have any power, but I'm going to try to will myself, like, depending on what story you're telling, you may be not awake to the fact that you really have so much more power than you're giving yourself credit for, and that the physical reality that you're creating is actually something you can change if you just start with the basics. So yes, awareness is a first step to recognizing what is the story you're telling yourself about any and all interactions or experiences. Who do you think you are? What do you think you're worth? Where do you, all these thoughts and all these stories of why you aren't, and if you could, all end up manifesting in the physical realm. So yeah, awareness is finally stepping out and becoming aware of what is the story, because you believe finally that it's worth, that you are finally the one that could change it, versus just being like, that's just what it is.
Right.
No, what if it's not? And if it's not, and I have the power, it's becoming like accountable to, you are the creator of your reality.
Right.
And at first you're like, no, because it's awful, I don't know how to control it. You may be not wanting to take authority over your life because you've been blaming everybody else and God and all these things. So it's kind of actually really hard at first to be like, you're telling me that all the crap I went through, like, that was something that I chose in some way.
Right.
What about when people were doing all these terrible things to me? In some way, there was something where you played a part, even if it was sometimes like something you signed up for prior to life. Even that, you can be, okay, I chose this. Why? What was it I was meant to get out of that? But either way, like, if we believe we have the authority to make and create our own existence and our own experiences, then suddenly it's worth the investment to become aware of all the thoughts you're having, versus just be in your thoughts constantly creating unintentionally every bad experience you're having.
Yeah. I have so many questions about that I'll get to it in just with you in just a moment. First, quick shout out. I'm not sure who you are, but somebody's Instagram handle is Dogpack Nation, and I love that. So I would just like to say thank you for joining. We call ourselves the Omega Wolf Pack. That's kind of part of our family identity. So thanks so much for joining. I'd love to hear from you if you have any questions or comments. And we'll turn to Angie with first a great, really appreciate the comment, and then a more insight/question. But yes, having awakenings within the dream, like lucid dreaming, which we can probably get to in just a moment. And then she also adds, I was having this conversation with my mother-in-law this morning. When we wake up, it was just like a blimp of time in more of a non-linear fashion, which I can totally relate to. It's like dreams are just pew, 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 for me as well, all over the place. And we review the lessons from that dream, I'm assuming, when we wake up. So how does that relate to this experience and becoming accountable as the creator of our dream, even if it kind of feels random? A dream's a pretty good example of that. Of like, that was just a random thing that I had, but believing it was there to teach you a lesson brings a different level of meaning.
And there's so many more, like, even like psychologists that are like, dreams have meaning, there's something to learn. So like, if we realize that and we apply that to real life too, like, what if we saw this real life as a form of dreaming? Then that would say every experience here is literally here to teach you a lesson. This experience you had is because there's something inside your psyche that hasn't truly awakened to being fully in control of your own creation. Because why would we ever choose to have a negative experience unless it was there to teach us the lesson, something we're meant to gain from it, even if it was to help us awaken or help us awaken others. Like, there is never a time where you could say, I would choose to just have a bad experience because that's a bad experience.
Right.
So you awake in your dream, or let's just say like your normal life, and I'm having a pretty crappy day. If I awake in my dream, like you can awake lucid dreaming and just at nighttime, you say, what would I do then? You become aware that you are literally the one experiencing this and that you can do whatever you want. There's one good thing about lucid dreaming is you feel like there's no consequences after you wake up, which doesn't quite apply here. You don't feel like you can wake up. I'm going to be in this dream until I finish this whole, whatever. You might make different choices. But either way, when you become lucid dreaming, you stop playing into the negative energy and you start just being like, I'm going to go create something better. I don't like this. So and you take kind of accountability. I'm dreaming. This isn't what I want. So I'm going to do something different.
Wipe it and start over. Right.
And that's what it is here too. And this, if we look, regardless if you believe it's a dream or it's not a dream, if you look at it the same way and you believe you have authority over your own life and that every bad experience you're having is for you to retrain yourself to have something better. So it's like you're the gardener and you're the one designing the seeds. If you design something, if you taste something that doesn't taste good, you'd be like, I'm going to go back to the drawing board. I'm plucking that out. No, thank you. Because you believe you have control over it. If you don't believe you have control over your life, you're likely to play the victim. You're likely to try to force something to be different instead of recognizing, I did this. Why did I do this? Why did I magnetize these types of people to me? Mm-hmm. Why did I react that way? Why is it making me feel that way? If you start having authority because you believe the life that is here, the physical reality is your creation based on the thoughts that you're having, the stories you're telling you that then manifest in the physical form, and the people that will play those parts will be magnetized to you. Mm-hmm. Then you don't have to be the victim anymore. You can be the one to rewrite the stories and see it as a mirror of like, oh, I know that this means I need to go inward. Let me go back to my heart and ask my heart, why did I manifest this? What thoughts created this? What story created this? And how do I rewrite it so I have something better tomorrow? Yeah. That's you becoming aware and authentic and capable of redoing the day. That moment, stepping forward out of that could be different. And having more time to do that, I become aware that I am in control. I created this, and you stop blaming somebody else. That's not where your power isn't in blaming anyone else. Your power is in taking accountability for everything that brought you to that moment, and stop and be like, thank you for playing these roles, because now I know something needed to change. Instead of believing you're just the victim of the story and you're mad at everybody else, doesn't help you.
Right. Yeah, and the Taurus in me would say, like, who are you to tell me that? Maybe it's your fault. And I think that's a big part. I think this is a great way to bring in. And then we've got a comment from Beth, our friend from North Carolina. Beth, it's so great to see you tonight. I'm excited to bring your comment up in just a moment. But the Taurus energy, it feels like this, all the syzygy pairings make sense. It's a constellation. It's a 360-degree cycle. It's a journey. And that's, I think, why they pair so well. But Taurus energy is so grounded. It's so sustaining. I feel like life as a Taurus, like, I think the thing that I relate to the most is being dependable, like being the one that people count on to see the project through, to be the one that doesn't give up. Like when everybody else is sort of like, yeah, okay, who's going to help with this right now? It's midnight in the master's degree and we've got to do our presentation at 8 a.m. Like the Taurus is the one that raises the hand and is like, yes, I'll see this through. And it can be so hard to start over again. It's like we get so committed to the path that we're going on that we get this huge bias. And it's like, if we give up on that, we judge ourselves so harshly. That was like probably one of the deepest wounds that I had to find a way to heal within myself, was like this Taurus sustaining, grounded, be the one that people can rely on. Don't let emotions get in the way, bottle them all up and shove them down until they really explode, which is with the beginning of my awakening. But it sounds like Beth kind of relates with this. And then let's get your insight on how we can move on from that blaming and that needing to be for others that, for me at least, was really, that was like the test of the fixed earth grounded sustaining Taurus energy. So Beth, again, thanks so much. Great to see you on here. We are I'm just like, I'm like at a loss for words. So never know who we'll get to see again. I was excited to see her leading a series. Yes, thank you so much. She has been researching true sidereal astrology, which we got into a couple years ago, which is based more on the constellation that each sign is in. And of course, like the entire universe, like all the planets, rather than just an equal 30 degrees for each sign. And she found out she's a Taurus ascendant, which I don't know that much about what that means, but I know you do. And the things about awareness has been on her mind. And I think, Beth, that really is like the new earth. It's like this awareness that doesn't really want to be silenced and never did. And once you let it out, it just becomes like this huge consciousness where you're kind of like the little fly on the wall, watching things and observing rather than being attached. And it's a huge part of waking up, but I can relate to that as well. So as far as this Taurus energy and this difficulty with like turning and changing and being willing to start over and let it wash away without judgment, how would you help those of us that still struggle with that blaming and that kind of fixed energy that doesn't really want to start over again, even if it is a nightmare? We're like, we'll see this nightmare all the way through. I don't want to admit I was wrong and start over.
Yeah, I totally like resonate with like, it was so hard for me when I first started playing poker. When I had invested so much, it was like, I'm just going to keep going. I cannot, because I've invested so much. And it actually took a long time for me to realize it doesn't matter how much you've invested, because if at the point you feel like if you had not invested as much, you would say no, you should say no. You kind of have to go into making choices that are unattached. So however far you've gone, you got to take that part out of the equation to say, there's no judgment of how far I've gone because it got me here. And if you take out the judgment of however much effort and energy you put into it and say, that brought me here. And even if I have to start over, I'm not starting over because I've gained every bit of the information I needed to change course. And you do it as long as you need to until you're willing to make a different choice. So there is no need to ever judge how invested you are in anything. If you hadn't invested, would you make another choice? Because if you would, then you know you shouldn't be there anymore and that you're just losing, because you will eventually choose it. It's just a matter of time. But you will have at that point, from that point where like, I should choose something different, but I'm too invested. There's a period of time where you are just losing. And it's just hurting you, and it gets more and more painful as it goes on. And that's the only amount of time that you need to be like, I'm hurting myself. But had you chosen at the point where you're like, yes, I realize that I got this far, and you just say, that's okay. If you go into it with basically the ideal that like, it doesn't matter how far I go in something to be wrong, because I'll get the best amount of information and be able to go into another choice, another path, then you're not losing anything. It truly was all gain. But it is a true loss of self when you know that you should choose different, but you're like, I'm too invested or I'm too scared to move. You are hurting yourself and you're not learning anything other than the hard lesson that I should have listened to myself sooner. Yep. Which is also a learning thing, but it's a very painful learning thing that you could technically bypass. But even that, you don't need to judge yourself, because you're like, I need to see how far I could go to not trust myself before I'd be willing to do it. And it hurt me so bad that I eventually got here. So even that is a lesson. It's still no worth judging yourself.
Right. That's very powerful. And finding ways to work through that, laugh it off, find someone to decompress with, whatever it is that does that for you. It's really important to become aware. It's important for your self healing and your self actualization to become aware of all the things you're doing that hurt you. And Alyssa, that's been a big journey for you, like year to date. How have you encouraged yourself when it's been hard and you've had to like really think about, I don't know if I want to give myself permission to not do this thing because I think I have to, even though I don't want to?
Yeah, I mean, my whole life, I have to's has been like so painful for me, even at a very young age. Like, I could totally like work with people. I've always been a very like, you matter, I matter. Like, just kind of been born into me. but I've always wanted to find a way that works for both of us. And whenever my parents would be the you have to because I said so, it was like, oh my gosh, I can't handle that. But I took it on to some extent and then started living that way. And my own psyche was the one saying that. It doesn't matter. Instead of me, the original me would have been like, okay, I feel like doing this, but I also realize that might this. And I would take all parts into consideration and I'd sit there and have a conversation with myself. That's I have that skill. But as soon as I started becoming more of my parents, because I believed there was no other way, that's the only way to do it. Whatever made me submit to, okay, I guess you're right. I guess there is no other way. And I just need to shut up and listen. That part of me started being its own inner critic of like, it doesn't matter. You just got to do it. So disassembling that part of my psyche was really hard, but I've realized that it was almost the most important part to free me, because it's in that silence of saying, no, I don't. I do not have to anything. So I'm going to sit here, and in that silence of I will not do that. I don't even know what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to do that. And that's what my tattoo, Sino Ectogamete, like never without my permission. I am not going to do it, and I don't have to. You pull your power back, and you finally find the third option, which is both of those things matter, and I can find a way. And that's what the universe is trying to teach us, that it's never you have to just because you have to. There's always a way to consider both things and not just say it has to be this or that, but these both matter. So what's a way that we can both agree is good enough for the whole?
Yeah. And it's been a really meaningful journey for me to see you go through that process and have the opportunity to validate. I don't know if it's kind of a interesting example, but making dinner. We have a lot of kids. Dinner's like a really big thing. And for a very long time, Alyssa just took that burden and didn't really complain, even though she was kind of boiling inside. And so allowing herself to just say like, I don't want to do dinner has been like a really healing thing that for both of us, now we can enjoy it together. And it's more fun now. And it's like, all right, we're just going to do this because it feels good and we deserve to feel good. And if our kids want something else, they can help. And that's been like a really cool journey that I'm so grateful to you being willing to step into that.
I'm glad that you saw it that way, because not all men would have reacted that way. But I came from like that kind of is a role to be good enough as a mother. And so whatever parts of ourselves say you have to in order to be, that's a lie. And you have to disassemble it and say like, I don't have to anything to be anything. I am what I am, and I deserve all the good things, even if I don't feel like doing it, even if I feel, however you feel or whatever you want. You are a piece of the puzzle that if there's a job that nobody wants to do, then you guys can all come together and be like, okay, nobody wants to do this. What can we do instead? Or if we really are like, but it's still worth it, we all like what it is, then we can all sacrifice a little bit and find a new way. But when one person takes on a role because of the belief, the false belief, the fear that it makes them not good enough, you literally are resentful for every aspect of it. And that energy leeches off you, and you are not going to get the gratitude that you think you deserve. You will literally manifest people that will be like entitled and stuff, because it's not in alignment with love. You're not doing it out of love. You're doing it out of resentment, and you're going to get that equal exchange. So it was a hard one, but in allowing myself to say, I've been doing this for 5 years and I don't even like it. I used to love cooking, but I don't like it. I haven't liked it for many years. These boys are too picky. They're all complaining. Nobody's excited. They're all just like, I reasons in the past, which one included it made me a good mom, but two was I really loved cooking for people that love to eat, and these boys don't love to eat the all the energy that I put into it. So it was like, this isn't fun for me anymore. But I just kind of silenced that because I have to, and that I have to eventually in Saturn. I'm going through this huge, ego and just disillusion of anything that's not serving me. And that one came up really strong, and it's felt like so freeing. I had anxiety like leading up to it. Now it's time. I have to do this. And now it's like, I don't have to. Well, what can we do? Maybe we can order something tonight.
Yeah, it's been a great journey, and there are so many ways we can do that, and that's what syzygy is all about. That's what your masculine and your feminine is all about, and that's what these conversations through these archetypes and emanations are all about. It's taking the part of you that's acting and connecting it to the part of you that's feeling. And I want to also highlight something really cool that Beth shared about the sidereal astrology, which is, I can't really assume that this is understood, but there's this idea called My Human Design that's becoming very popular, and that I think it's just good to take a quick pause here and let everyone who's listening know all of us have the energy of all the zodiac archetypes. All of us do. And we're kind of used to this idea of the sun sign, like the sun's obviously the center of our universe. And so it's pretty easy to say like, oh, the earth is in, Taurus this month, and it's going to go into Gemini next month. But every other planet and every other asteroid and every other mass energy center in the universe is also going through something at the moment you were born. And I think that's the part that we're trying to bring together, is all of us interact with all of these energies. You don't have to choose, and you don't have to be limited anymore, and you don't have to believe any certain thing about yourself. You can create it. So if you want to do a quick birth chart, if you haven't before, and if you want to see where Taurus may be interacting with you, you could copy this little link and I think it only takes like 30 seconds. You put in a little bit of basic info, but that is some of the reading that Alyssa does with her clients, is to help them understand themselves from a total holistic perspective through the whole universe's lens. And so when we, say that last week was Aries and this week is Taurus, these are just the energies and how they interact within all of us. We're not just talking about people that were born in May. We're talking about, like Angie mentioned, she's very advanced with this. Her Chiron is in Taurus. And Beth mentioned that her, ascendant is in Taurus. So yeah, there's some way that this energy is interacting with you. And if you'd like to learn more about it, copy that link. Anything, just felt like a good little note to add. Anything you'd like to add?
And something really cool about human design that I love, that kind of helps understand that what we're talking about. The human design, like your body, literally is the puzzle of the universe combined in one body. So every single even if your sun was in this, you have a center, you have a gate in your body. So you're either emulating it and it's coming from you, or you're taking it in. So you are still an aspect of the universe in all of these places, but are you getting that energy from other people, or are you the one pushing it out? Either way, you're interacting with the energy and you have the capacity, and it's a part of your blueprint. So there really there is no aspect of, the stars or the universe that is not an aspect of you, but you just have a unique way of interacting with it. And that's what this can help you teach. Like, what is it you embody? How much of that energy is coming from you, or how is it that you're meant to learn how to pull in that energy from other people and work together as a collective? Because that's the whole point. That's why we're here, to have this human experience. We wanted to experience where you have this skill and I have this skill, and together we make a complete, beautiful picture together. We are the instruments in a symphony, and we are meant to play our unique sound, and together we play the most beautiful song in existence. That is important, to play different roles, but we are only a piece of all the other parts of what makes us whole. So that's what human design is all about. It's like, this is going to tell you your instrument, but guess what? You are listening to all the other instruments, and you are playing a part, and you are receiving and giving your part, but you're also a part of the whole. Like, does that make sense?
Oh yeah. That's the feeling that you've helped bring into my life that I didn't really ever have before. It was always so hard to understand myself because I only had a couple lenses I was using, but using all the lenses feels super overwhelming. but it puts you back in the curious place that you are naturally before you give yourself all the limiting belief constructs that you use your entire life. So I'm so grateful for the new earth mentality that you've really introduced me to, that I was craving my entire life, but didn't really ever know how to find. And Brian, you're completely right. So Alyssa mentioned Ectogamut. The Fifth Element is the movie that came from. One of our first dates, I told Alyssa, like, you need to watch, they made a movie about you. We need to watch it together, because I saw this aspect of her being willing to step into this power that women really deserve and need to step back into, which is the source of love and light for the universe. Man is not the source. This masculine God that's, only the three-part Godhead with no woman or no mother, it's not real, and it never was. And it was put there to put women in a place that we could control her. That needs to end. And I love that message in that movie when I was a child, and it was really fun to. So that's like our little side thing, is the Fifth Element. So a couple other.
But remember, I want to definitely separate man and woman. It's masculine and feminine. So it's not if you're a man, you are playing slightly more of a masculine role in your life, and everybody's different, but it is your heart. The human heart is the mother, is this feminine force that is there to guide you, that the truth comes from. It's where we all have it, but it's sometimes easier to partner up with someone that's playing a more of a strong heart role to communicate with, and kind of like we're saying, like, what, depending on the instrument you're playing, you might be able to, you'll be receiving the information from other people. So don't want to separate man and woman that way, but yes, I totally hear what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's the goal, is to bring all those energies into each of us. And yes, you've taught me to find the mother within me and the daughter within me, and to treat you with that level of love, admiration, appreciation, and accountability that is easy to forget in the traditional husband and wife roles that we've learned through our life. So absolutely, it's all about eventually finding that within yourself and being worthy and capable to step into that power. So we got lots of comments that I'd like to, we'll just kind of fly through them. Just, pause me if you want to comment on any specific thing. But Angie, I really appreciate this little visual as well. Love the saying about those who hold the most visible light because they have seen the darkest dark, and that being the lesson of resilience. That resonates. That's the choice. That's the, I choose to create this reality, not in spite of, but to honor the difficulty that I've been through, because I chose it. And that's, I think, what you were saying a few minutes ago. And then Beth resonating back on the self-judgment piece, when we do go down that road that feels so hard to change from, that the self-judgment is hard. And then also a comment on the cooking thing, which I think we got into that. I hate cooking a lot of times too. Thank you so much. She hopped off, but I think for us, it was kind of like we did the Freaky Friday double date a couple weeks ago. And when they switch, the girl gets to be the mom on the TV show and tell all the parents to stop doing all the stuff they don't want to do. And by the end, they're all like crowd surfing, and they're all screaming like, give your kids space, stop controlling them. Don't waste your time cooking and cleaning. Who wants that? All these permissions, I think, in a fully aligned world, we'd give ourselves.
A lot more. We would probably end up like finding the parts that truly are like, this really does benefit a lot, and it feels good to have that kind of benefit, versus feeling like it's a role and we have to, this is what everybody tells me to do, versus really finding what feels right for you and then stepping into that. But yeah, that's so true. I love that.
Yep. What work do you want? Do you want the work that isn't taking you anywhere, that's really just repeating the same cycles? Or do you want the work that's going to bring your life into existence that you actually desire? What do you choose? And that's really what it feels like this word and life is all about. And then another echo from Angie, that these planetary energies is so fascinating, which it really is. It feels like a lifelong study of self, to see yourself through all the lenses and all the interactions, because you're so much more than your sun sign. So question for you, Alyssa, for those of us that have a difficult time feeling like we truly are creating our reality, there's too many pressures, there's too much limitation, we don't have the resources, for anyone that's not resonating with, what would you say to someone who doesn't feel like don't feel like that's true, that I have the power to create my reality.
Well, first of all, I'd say, why not? Whatever is limiting you from believing that, like, why not be curious enough to test it? Instead of just assuming and blaming and all that you could do to try to say, yeah, that's not for me. What if you just spent a certain amount of time saying, like, I'm going to give this all I got. I'm going to believe this and see how that affects my life. Because if you do believe it and it has a good effect, why wouldn't you lean into that?
Yeah.
And I
And
can imagine anybody believing that and it not affecting their life in a positive way, because you become the one in control of the things that are affecting you in a negative way. And if you were to just think different thoughts, you'd feel better anyways. So even if physically nothing changed, you would change. And if you change for the better, how is that wrong?
right.
You believe that you are not creating your reality, which I do agree in some way. Like, there is an amount of co-creation that is happening. You are not the only dreamer in this co-dream. And there is things that are manifesting physically that you're going to be participating in. And the partners that you choose and the children that you have, these are all things that in relation to each other, you're going to overlap in some way. But ultimately, regardless of what other people are dreaming, you are the one to decide what it is and how you are going to feel in any certain situation, depending on the thoughts you'll have about that, because your emotions, your feelings are a direct mirror of the thoughts you are having about the things you perceive. So when the information is coming in and you're a certain experience is coming in, the story you will tell yourself, that's the word that we're talking about, the story you tell yourself, which is already like preconditioned thoughts that you've probably been having for a very long time. Autopilot, this is my story. I'm the victim. Everybody else is the problem. This isn't fair to me. All those will create then an emotion. And then you'll be having a physical, emotional reaction to the experience physically. And you're going to be blaming everybody else, when in all reality, if you had told yourself a different, empowering story and gave yourself the freedom to choose something different and give yourself the opportunity to express, hey guys, I'm actually not feeling this. How about we do something else? Or I'm going to take myself out of this situation, or I'm going to go and do something that will change it. All of that would make you feel better. And never did you have to blame anybody in the process, because you took your power back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'd say is, why are you not wanting to test it? Because if you test it, you will see the pudding. So it's all up to you. Do what you want with it. But it's just true for me, because I've experienced it and it's what happens.
Yeah. And I've got a couple questions for you to follow up from that. But I saw just a snippet of an interview recently, which it struck me because it was all about this. It was one of the more successful CEOs in the country, very grounded, down to earth guy, but super successful, mega billionaire, whatever. And he spent like 10 or 20 years as like a barista. I think he might be maybe Starbucks or something, but for like 10 or 20 years, he was just serving people coffee. And he noticed that a lot of people in his role would come and go. They'd burn out, a lot of turnover, a lot of people super frustrated with their life because like they didn't want to be a barista. But the story he told himself was, I'm becoming, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm interacting with people, I'm seeing where I fit in personality wise. And he said, I just kept telling myself that I was learning, that I was growing. I picked what felt good and I chose to tell myself that. And I'm really not any different now than I was then, because he already created it in his mind. And that struck me as powerful, that he wasn't focused on anything external. He was totally focused inward on just enjoying the journey and becoming who he wanted to be, even if he was in a role that other people would see as a sign that they were not on the right track. So not sure if that is exactly what you're saying, but it feels like an important
totally resonates. No, I agree. Like, depending on, and you see this in other people, like one person can be completely content, and there is different parts of that. I'm not going to say this is exactly the same, but for a moment, even me, like a past me, would be having an entirely different experience in a certain situation that I am now. And that's because my internal world changed, my thoughts and how I perceive it changes. So
Yeah.
that is just proof that your physical reality is not necessarily your emotional reality. And that it also proves that when you have a different thought process, you also change the interactions and the people and the circumstances. And especially these days, it can happen so fast. When you upgrade yourself to higher vibrations of thought, you automatically manifest new jobs, new opportunities, new relationships, new people to interact with. It changes so fast that why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you do the work? Because it's so beneficial, more than any amount of trudging through and just trying. Like when you can bypass that and just do the cheat codes, I was talking to my friend about, find the cheat codes to just upgrade you so you don't have to do it all the hard way and then hopefully get there. And you likely won't, because it's not meant to be hard. It's meant to be fun, and it's meant to be meaningful. And when you are on the right path, even the hard work feels meaningful, because you know why you're doing it and you're getting something from it, and you're focused on, why am I doing this? Because it's a good reason and it's worth it. It's not because someone told me I'm not going to be good enough. I'm not motivated by all the things I'm scared of. I'm motivated by that internal compass that says this is going to be great. And I'm so excited for what's to come, and it's so worth it. Even if it's hard, it's worth it. It's not about the negative, it's about the positive.
Right. Yeah, that resonates really deeply. And as we think about Taurus, and if anyone has done that little birth chart link and you learned something about where your Taurus is interacting with you, we'd love to hear it. If you have a quick insight or comment or anything about the story you tell yourself and how it's impacted your life today, or a part of your story you'd like to change, any of those things, we'd love to hear anything that's going through your mind and encourage you to share. But as we think about Taurus, traditionally he's kind of like a bull. That kind of goes along with these characteristics that we've talked about, but he has horns. And one thing I learned that kind of changed my view of this energy, as you and I were studying it a few years ago, is this idea of toroidal energy. And you can look at the Earth, and you can look at supernatural places like Sedona, Arizona, or Mount Shasta, or Titicaca, or the pyramids, as having this toroidal energy in them, which is everything that goes out comes back. And it's kind of like karma. It's a lot like what you're saying, the story we tell ourselves. But a horn, like in a Taurus, as it grows, they tend to curl and they tend to like come back. If you look at like a ram or a bull, that's kind of like this energy, this toroidal feeling that what you create does come back to you. And it's kind of like a reminder that you truly are accountable and responsible to create your reality. Is that toroidal energy kind of like a vortex? Does that resonate much with what you're saying in the way we tell ourselves the story coming back to us?
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. I've never thought of it that way, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If we really believe that it all starts here, then we are in control of all of that. And we finally feel like, oh, okay, I don't need to blame. I just need to reassess where I'm creating that. And we are embodied in our God form, because we're like, oh, this is my creation. This is me experiencing this. It is all for me. And there's many other me's here. And this is all for all of us. And we're meant to do this together. But that was all part of the creation. We wanted to have partners. We wanted to have collaboration. That was the utmost good of all that we could imagine ourselves to be, including this whole forgetting aspect, which has its own benefits. And when we truly step in and awaken, it's realizing our power, realizing why, and being connected to the love that propelled the whole story, the whole thing that's holding the space, the womb of creation, to give us this experience itself. And that's what changes the whole dynamic of this fear mentality, or this me versus you, because we finally see the whole picture.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's everything.
Yeah, sorry, what was that you said at the end?
I said, for me, that's what changed everything. Mm-hmm. When I awoke to realizing this is all that the I am in me is the I am in you, having a completely different experience, not knowing what I'm thinking, but that ultimately, when you go back to the very beginning, you are me, and we chose to separate. We chose to have these individual experiences in order to have this grand, beautiful story that we, and this experience that we can have by being companions, by being different, unique, special, and be able to share together what it felt like, what we want. Like that was the whole point. But that made me look at everybody differently, because I believed that whatever choices they made, they were doing the best that they could, because that's ultimately what I know I am. I'm always trying to be, we know what we've experienced, what is, which is there's a part of us that's always just trying to find good. We're all doing our best, even if it's in protection, even if it's, I feel yucky, so I'm trying to get away from it. There is a source of, I want what's good. And so if we look at it that way, even the worst choices that other people are making, like I trust that they're doing the best that they can. And when I believe that they're doing the best that they can, and I don't have to like cut them from me, be like, oh, you're one of the bad ones. You're just a bad one. No, you're all just this good force that's trying to figure it out from a different perspective. But you finally trust that you're doing your best. I can humanize you. I can love you as you are, even though I here don't understand. I believe that you in some way do.
Yeah.
And that I meet you there. And that there's also a reason. It's not like you're just crazy, because it's so easy to make someone just crazy or just bad and you're crazy. There's no rhyme to your decisions. But that also helped me realize there's something guiding you, and it's worth exploring. And that ultimately, when you discover it, you find yourself at the same kind of love, grace, and acceptance that is there for every single person of existence.
Yeah, so I love it. Yeah, that resonates deeply. And that's the other aspect of Taurus that I had kind of been taught and learned growing up was, there was this like sustaining, fixed worker energy that's very grounded and very predictable. But there's also this desire for comfort. And like you were saying, deserving good things. But the self-judgment that I'd learned made it impossible and inappropriate to want good things in the eyes of other people. So I always did it in secret. And that's the man you met 5 years ago, was the one always, shopping in secret and trying to carve out me time by minimizing it and then stealing it after getting permission. I'm still struggling with a lot of those things. But the giving ourselves the permission to love the story we tell ourselves and love ourselves in the process can be another struggle along the way that we uncover. And this pairing between our thoughts and the life, this story being the reality that we're creating, is a really powerful reminder that loving yourself really starts here. It really starts with your thoughts. For those of us that still struggle with giving ourselves permission to need and want things and being seen in that vulnerable space, what would you say for those who are still learning to love ourselves?
Well, I think we are all still learning to love ourselves just a little bit more every day. But ultimately, the easiest way to get there is to sit with yourself and listen. Listen to your body, listen to the feelings, and find a way to express it, find a way to feel it, and then find a way to connect the dots. We're worthy of that attention, even if there's nobody else. That used to be the hardest thing for me. If nobody else is asking me, nobody else is listening, I didn't feel like I was worthy to hear my own, to cry on my own, because nobody cared, and that was more painful for me. But when I finally realized, like, I deserve to get it and I deserve to give it, and I don't need to limit myself from allowing the space to hear myself feel, think, be. And in that process is where the awakening happens. It's in going inward and listening and feeling and listening and feeling, and then finding a way to speak. Truly allowing yourself to be vulnerable in your fears, allowing yourself to share why you think you're not good enough, finding the thoughts, a space for all of it to commune together. You see yourself like as this round table, and every aspect of self, the doer, the thinker, the feeler, all these parts deserve a voice at the table, and you're the one to hold the space, and you're the table itself. Will you allow yourself the time and space to arrive, to listen, to combine, to collaborate, to find value in every voice that has anything to say, and to believe it's worth listening. Because if you do, that's where you finally reconnect to all the parts that feel lost and feel broken and unimportant. Because if all parts are there, then the heart is there. Even if all the parts aren't there, like the heart is there either way if you give it space to feel and think and voice itself. You will always find that love is the connector, and love has the answers. And the answers are always, you're all good enough and you're all valid. And good for you for finding a way through that terrible experience, even the bad choices we made and the insecure parts. Like, it found a way to survive. And that's valuable too. And we could say, badge of honor for you. Now let's do a new job, because that's kind of not great anymore, because now we're old enough to do it ourselves. Now we're old enough to ask for help. We have a voice. Let's do something new. And all those parts feel like they're valuable, and they can give up this old job to do something new, and they're just as important. If not, they finally see they're even more important than they ever knew.
It's a good rhyme too. There's tears in my eyes as you're saying this, because this is a healing journey, and this aspect of it, to listen to yourself and feel, is an easy step to skip. And you're so right. And it's so funny as you were speaking. So a powerful exercise for me has been to see my mind as like the 3-year-old me, and to see my heart as me, as my own mother. And even in this, the thought and the life, same mentality. And as you were speaking, we put our Halloween lights up a little early. There's this little 2-year-old boy running down the sidewalk, and he pointed up at our little dragon, and I could see him. He's just saying, "Mommy, look." She pulled out her camera and was taking pictures and listening to him. But that is such a powerful little note to end on, is like, be those parts within yourself. Be the mother who loves that little child so much and is willing to hear him, even if all he wants to do is talk about a dragon. That right now is like the most amazing thing he's ever seen. And just allowing yourself to be that little boy and that mother at the same time is such a powerful thing. And that strikes such a chord within me, to learn to listen. Really, we haven't talked about speaking yet. That comes later. But listening, coming in now, I think came in for a really important reason. I really appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, that's so that really lights my heart up. Like, when we see it from, especially if you've been a parent, your child doing the most ridiculous or incredible, all that it is, when you're not in a negative space, it's just incredible to watch. Their mistakes are incredible to watch. If you're not in a lack and you're not in a not good enough place yourself, it does not matter. It is just the most incredible moment to be and share with somebody that's having this new experience, and is the one to tell. And that is what our heart has. Our heart, the fact that we are alive and that mind is there, proves that you were worthy of every thought you've ever had, and the space that you've had it, and the experience that you've made, and the mistakes that you've made. Your heart is saying you're worthy. So you don't have to wonder anymore, am I worthy to take the time? Your heart has already proven it. It's just time to listen to what it has to say about every beautiful mistake you've ever made.
I love that so deeply. And I want to ask you a couple more questions. We usually don't go too much over, but is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. And before we do, I really appreciate this insight as well, Angie. God has screamed at the top of the lungs since the beginning of time. Everything. Love is always the answer. So true. It's truly in everything if you'll just stop to listen. And so we're seeing
pause real quick, just because this feels really important.
Perfect.
So part of my awakening, this was one of the most important things, and it didn't make sense to me. Like, my waking mind is like, oh no, it doesn't make any sense. But this has, from that point forward, been my mission to finally uncover. But the strongest thing that came through in my awakening, and awakenings come in like, because it's like there's this, and then there's all this that has to be assimilated in order to truly be there. So you can have this experience and then not know what to do with it, and feel like you're like crazy because this part doesn't get it, but you had it. So the biggest thing that came through to me was that I saw what looked like a web, and love was the center of all of it. And every question from every seeker, from all the unknowing, every answer eventually became, it was for love. That there was, there's some there's some information, the answers that kind of help you get there. But there was no question that the answer wasn't love. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. What about that? Like, and I started like trying to make sense of it. And until this day, every single time I've been willing to find the connection. It really does. It's all for love. For love. Why? For love. When? Love. Love is now. Like there, it all connects in this incredible way to love is the birthplace of all forgetting and all division. Everything came from, I want to love, and love created you. Love created a perspective that didn't remember, a perspective that was separate. It's because at one moment in time said, I want to experience you. Not just me, not just me, not all things is me. I want to experience you. And that was what began the whole experience, and all in our human existence, this mind that doesn't know, that is the wanderer, is the child to experience something new and not be able to connect to all this. But our heart is the one that gave it birth. And our heart is the thing that's beating for our mind to have life. It's all this beautiful collection of awakening inside of our own body and these different perspectives. It's trying to figure it out. But every single time you eventually get there, the answer is always love. And that's what came up for me. And I feel like it's just important to share that. I know we're already over it, but did you want to finish your question?
Well, we're just going to keep going over because we can, as long as we both agree. Just tell me how many you've done.
We have our friend.
That's why we had to stay. I told we knew it. Cassandra, great to see you and hear from you. Oh, this feels deep. So experiencing the pleasure of all our parts and roles is the most Taurus thing I can think of. So thank you. But yes, that was like the hardest part of myself to allow to start coming into existence, because I had so much shame about allowing other people to see me feeling good, because I never really witnessed that from others. And I was taught by myself and by the adults around me when I was young that you're not allowed to do that. You've got other people to take care of, because that's what it means to be good and feel good, is giving good to others. And that's really a lot of the philosophy that Alyssa grew up with too. That's part of the doctrine that was so deep that it's still shackles that we're shaking off. So if you have any additional context you'd like to add as we do, I promise this is the last question, but did you have a comment as well, Alyssa?
Something that just came through for that, and this is something I've been trying to understand that's come through so many times. I don't know if anybody has any comments about this, but what I've channeled, what I've found to be true, sometimes doesn't even make sense, is that pleasure is the opposite of pain. Joy is here. There is something that is joy, that is like, and so many people have talked about this. So there's like, I don't know, it's like Buddha. It's like, oh, I found this point. Like, we don't ever need to experience pleasure and pain. But
yeah, we call it the eightfold. Yeah.
Okay, but here's the great news. Yes, there's this. You don't ever have to experience pain. Great. But guess what? You've already experienced pain. So any pain you've ever experienced, there is a greater joy that you have never known that you will be able to experience. So why not find all the pain you ever had and cash in? Because you get pleasure as soon as you let go of that pain. And it is better, and it's always worth however much pain you went into. You will feel equal amount of, like, I want to say like orgasm to the amount of pressure that you've strayed. You have strayed from joy. You have strayed from truth. But guess what? You will have joy of letting go of that in a way that's like, are you kidding me? Wow, this is incredible, because you've suppressed, and it's like this final letting go that feels the opposite. It's the traveling back from all that you've like created in a negative way. Mm-hmm. So There's no reason to ever judge the pain. You're going to say, okay, so how is this pain? Now that I can figure it out, I've done all the work, but now I can let go. And to find your pain is to find your treasure. And the treasure will bring you even greater pleasure. So you do not need to be scared of the pain. Lean into the pain and know that there's treasure that you can then ride all the way back to joy. You've done the work, so enjoy.
Beautiful. The pleasure ride sounds amazing. And I'm feeling euphoric just hearing you talk about it, but it makes so much sense. It's really physics, right? Like equal and opposite reaction. It's the rule of the universe that's been around from the beginning that is sort of undisputed at this point. So it's kind of like matter. It's really the thread of the universe that holds everything in space. So beautiful. Thank you so much for that. That feels like something that's going to stick with me for a long time. So extra credit, and this brings us to something that we've been discussing. We'll just throw it out there because it feels inspired. So Angie is calling on all willing participants to go deep inside or outside, wherever it is, and help with this Chiron Taurus energy. All I know about Chiron is he's really, really far away and often feels really left out. So there's probably a lot more to it.
Do you want to know what Chiron is for?
Yes, let me finish and then we'll do it. But we have decided, and we got to get the format right, but to complement these weekly shows, we got to start doing Zooms together to share and interact and really go deeper into this discussion aspect of it. So Angie, you just brought us there. We've got a really important homework assignment to bring to the first inaugural one, which will be soon, sometime in the next few weeks. But we'll send out some kind of poll and try to pick a good time of the week and do these, every so often, maybe every couple of months or something. But I commit to you, Angie, Alyssa, and I will do some heart work on this and see what we can prepare so that we can have a meaningful discussion about it. And anyone else who feels called to, write it down, Chiron, Angie, Taurus, and be ready when we send out the link and poll on when would be a good time to do that discussion. Now, moving to Chiron, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so she's saying that her Chiron is in Taurus, right?
Right.
So that means that's where the most healing that she's meant to have. You take on this burden to have the most pain in life. Chiron is basically, I'm taking on a certain aspect that is eventually going to be the healing, like the healer, because it went through the greatest pain in Taurus. So for her Taurus pain is going to be in abundance. I don't have enough, and I don't have control over my physical form, like my physical reality, this feeling of inadequacy and the feeling of lack of abundance. Mm-hmm. That's what she is going to be facing in life. So how do we heal that? Which is a lot about what we talked about today. You heal that by believing and knowing that your inner compass, your heart, is trying to mirror to you the thoughts you're having and to own your experience in a positive way. To be grateful for all that you've experienced, to know that like all the lack you've experienced was for a good reason. You took yourself as deep as you could go in this feeling of lack that you had the greatest pleasure to come back from, and then to prove to everybody else that you're going to help to learn how to be abundant, to have the physical, to be in power, to create the best reality. That is what this is all about, Taurus. All the physical pleasures in life, like, man, I have that. And you get to have that because you finally realize that you are in the driver's seat to create it. So where have you created lack? Where have you created lack? Because anywhere you've created this idea of lack and I am not good enough and I don't deserve good things is where you tweak all those little pieces until it goes back to I deserve all good things. I am in the control seat. And when you do that, you then change your life force and all this abundance starts flowing into you. And now your Chiron was the gift that said, I've been there. I went as deep as I could go, but I found the way out. And that's the healing capacity that you have to then teach everybody else.
Beautiful.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. And that feels like such an important aspect to add to this Taurus energy. This story you tell yourself runs deep, especially for those of us who are adults. You can retell your story from the past also. And that's like Alyssa's life and career at this point is quantum healing. It's literally rewriting the past because you have the power to do that. The past is just as much your imaginative creation as your present, as your future. There is no difference. There is no limitation. And she's really helped me learn that for myself too. And you've helped me learn that too, Angie. And the people we attract are such a powerful influence to create this story. If at whatever point in our life we're kind of looking to them or turning to them for whatever we're missing, but even then we can step into their shoes and be that aspect of them that they weren't able to emanate toward us and change it that way. So this retelling the story, it has no limits, it has no end. You can go to whatever place you want at any point and rewrite it. And I've seen you do that, and I think learning to do that is really the conclusion we've drawn about what this Taurus syzygy of word and life is all about. You put this one up, so I'll let you go ahead and read it if you want to. This is a great one.
I didn't know that by pushing that I know I usually do. I thought I was going to bring it just so we could see it because I was so excited. Mom, this is your first comment. I know you watch us all the time, but I just was excited that you actually said something. I love you. So she said, I love how well you both can express yourselves with all that you've been learning. But it just means so much that you show up, regardless of where you're at or what you might think. Even if you think that we're out and we're loony, like it means a lot that you're here and you love us. Either way, I love you so much, Mama.
It really does. And we need to know what that hidden emoji is that StreamYard wasn't able to show us.
It on my end.
What's between the heart and the hands?
No, it's a heart, and then it's hands, and then it's like this. Beep, beep.
What's between them, though? There's a missing emoji that's just a little rectangle.
So weird. It doesn't show it on my end. So I don't know. You tell me. So do you see 3 emojis?
We'll come back to it after. But I believe there may be a hidden symbol in there that we'll come back to. And then ending, this is a great way. Chiron is the wounded warrior. That feels... I don't know what he comes back as, but it feels like shamanic energy.
Yeah,
he comes back as...
it's the healer, the wounded healer. So it's the wounded warrior that comes back as the wounded healer. Like he was wounded, but now he can heal because he healed himself. That's Chiron in its truest form. The whole point was you pushed through anyways, and you found the way to heal, and then you can help other people heal too.
He's like he's the medic on the battlefield that was wounded, healed himself. Yeah, that's like
he figured it out.
We need to bring Chiron's we got to bring that guy around more often. I really love it. So thank you all so much for all the heart, thought, feeling that you've shared with us tonight. I feel like I'm in a new earth right now, and I hope that energy has resonated and that you are feeling something stirring within you too that feels so good. Thank you so much for joining. Alyssa, you are the teacher that I searched a long time for, and I'm sure glad I found you.
Ditto. Couldn't do this without you. Thank you guys for showing up.
I didn't even get to ask the question that I started to try to ask 20 minutes ago, and I'm glad I didn't. I'll save it for next week.
We could all think about it for next time.
We'll definitely bring it in next week, and we'll see you all there next Tuesday night. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.